Welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable. There is a topic that has been recurring and coming up throughout this event and previous events on reconditioning. Today, we're going to talk about the way your techs approach recon. And with us today is Brad Schafer, who's the Director of Product Management at ReconTRAC. Brad, welcome to the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
Thank you for having me, Ted.
Brad, a great honor to have you. You've got a great retail background, and JM Lexus and Walzer. Those are some pretty big names.
I've been in the business about 25 years. I've got the scars to prove it. It's been fun 25 years, and I love the retail world. This is the topic we're going to talk about today has a lot to do with the experiences we've had throughout those years.
And I think our audience appreciates that. I know they do, Brad, because, they're retail and they want to talk to folks, who've, earned those scars. And, no better topic than to do that with right now than Recon. So, Brad, when you look currently at the state of reconditioning right now, given the current market and the climate, what are you seeing there?
I think we can say that the sky is falling mentality is kind of over, right? I mean, after, COVID and all the problems we've had over the last few years, everybody was in flux on whether to buy, whether to sell, whether to, stand down. Nobody really knew what to do. I think that's kind of over. I think the market is somewhat stabilized. I'm hearing, the things we're hearing is it should get back to normal in the fourth quarter, but nobody has a crystal ball on that, right? We've been saying that for a year now, and things keep happening. So, there's a few things out there that, you've got General Motors. They're sitting on 120,000 cars right now that have been built, but they're still waiting for a part. So what I'm hearing is in the fourth quarter, those are things that those cars are going to start to be released. Think about it. You had 19, you had the parts strike with General Motors, which caused some production issues. You had COVID in 2021. It's 2022 now. You've got you can't get parts, you can't find people, but everything that I'm hearing is they're expecting a little bit of relief here in the fourth quarter. You've also got things like Zoom and Carvana and CarMax. They haven't been buying it lately. It's kind of brought the used car market down a little bit. So when those players start to get back into the buying mode, that could also swing the market up a little bit. So, we're here in fourth quarter is going to be a little bit of relief, but, it's realistically, I'm also hearing it's going to get somewhat normal within about a couple of years. One thing I do know, though, is, the great leaders are still doing great. The struggling ones are still struggling, and the medium ones are still in the middle.
So that brings me, Brad, to this. A lot of dealers, a lot of managers are saying, I understand the importance in this last year, especially, on getting those vehicles, to market, to frontline ready as quick as possible. We've put an emphasis on that. We're doing a lot of that right now. And our cycle time is fine. Okay. But I think they're probably overlooking some things. So share with us what some of those might be.
You can always get better at recon. I mean, no matter how well you're doing, you got to continue to stay focused on it. And there's always things that you can do to get better. Right now, we're seeing record reconditioning amounts, right? We're older cars, more expensive parts. You're seeing record times as well. Finding these parts, these cars can sit for a while. Trying to find technicians to work on these. I mean, it's things that it's continuing to get worse. Not better as an industry as a whole. So there's always been two things, right? It's turns and it's depreciation, right? I mean, that's been 100 years around for used cars. The depreciation, that's a little weird right now, right? I mean, it's more of appreciation. These cars are worth more used than they are new in some cases, and that will not stay that way, obviously. The other thing is turns, right? I mean, it's all about the turns. If I'm gonna sell you this phone and I'm gonna make $10 every time I sell this phone, and I sell 10 of them in a year, it's $100. Well, the goal is to sell 15 of these. It's no different in a car. So you got to get those cars acquired, reconditioned, and sold so you can turn your money. I mean, most used car managers are given an allotment of money. They got $1 million, or they got $500,000 or $2 million to spend on their used car inventory. And they've got to be able to turn that money as fast as possible. And sometimes it's a space issue. So again, turning these cars as fast as possible, through an automated process to get these things out is what you need to continually focus on.
And Brad, I think that's what at ReconTRAC that you help bring to the dealers. Okay. You focus on that automation. You do this so well in so many dealerships. Let's talk about that automation of the recon process. What pieces have you seen that would be missing in automated workflows that, some areas that dealers may not have considered up until this time?
There's differences in automation, right? I mean, I've hopped in some cars with some friends and their steering wheel buzzes a little bit. And I go, what is that? And they say, well, it's a self-driving car. Well, it may be a lane assist. I mean, I'm talking full automation. I'm talking Tesla where techs can give cars to techs, or technicians can move cars to technicians, and vendors complete tasks and they move down the line to the next stage. So, you want a tool. You want a tool that it immediately goes from when you acquire the vehicle into your reconditioning tool, right? You can't have those delays of a day or two. If the tools you're using have those delays, is it truly automated, right? You want to be able to give, when the tech's done, you can't have that 6-7 hours where the guy, takes them from one tech to the next. I mean, these are precious moments that you're losing. You're not going to get that time back. I mean, full automation means creating repair orders out of the tool. It means, adding opcodes to the repair order. It means, pushing that information right to the RO, right? These are the things that you need to do. You need to be able to remove the human element out of moving these cars and tracking these cars, because listen, I'm fairly good at what I do, but I can assure you that I've made some mistakes on where cars need to go and where cars are at. And without having the automation, it's going to be difficult. I mean, you think about it, you want tools that people, one of the things we've always focused on is making sure that the end users are using the tool, right? I mean, do you use Google, Ted?
All day long, all day in and out, all night long as well, too, sometimes.
You use it because it helps you, right? You use it because it's beneficial in many of areas in what you do every day, right? You have instant information, you have your emails. These are things that help you, right? So we've spent a lot of time making sure we're focused on the end user so that they like it and it helps them make money. If you're forcing, I mean, any tool out, it's a CRM, any tool, if you're forcing people to use a tool, what's going to be the end result? It may take a month or it may take a year, but what's going to happen? Right? They're probably going to stop using that tool. So regardless of the tool, you want to make sure that the tool is helping the technicians, helping the users, and that information then gets sourced back to the decision makers, which is typically the used car managers in real time. And you can use that information to make the better decisions of what to do on these vehicles.
And Brad, your technology really puts focus on this, because time is money, right? And, they're able to, decision makers at the retail level, as you and I have been, are able to see, exactly status, what's going on, where we're at. And in most dealerships, and let alone dealer groups, there's a lot of money on the line.
Correct. Yeah, these things are typically depreciating, but it's mostly it's about the turns, right? If it's sitting in the back of the shop, you can't sell the car and you can't turn that inventory faster. So yeah, that's correct.
I saw some news recently, and I want to congratulate you about the news about Hendrick Automotive Group using ReconTRAC in their dealerships. And I know that some people in the audience are going to look at that, Brad, and they're going to say, well, of course, Brad got a major group there, to use ReconTRAC. But, that's not always the case. Why should a medium or a smaller group or even an individual rooftop, consider reconditioning software in general?
Right. Well, we do well with the groups, right? We create standardization and we can control the inspection process, and sure, we're good for those groups. But the smaller stores, we're equally as important, right? You have different challenges, right? You don't have as many people that can work on these cars. You're outsourcing the wheel repairs. You're outsourcing the detail. You may not have the parts on the shelf, so you've got to know where every delay is on every vehicle. You need to be able to click a couple of buttons and know which ones are delayed, why they're delayed, and which step they're delayed in. And these are important things regardless of how big you are. I mean, talk a little bit about Hendrick, right? We're proud to, they're a great group, right? Very, very smart people. They're focused on their brand, right? Their brand is consistency of quality, right? So when you go to a store, regardless of where you are with Hendrick, you're going to find the same level of quality. And they do that by controlling how these cars are inspected, the processes in which they go through. They listen to their people, right? They put tools in place that their people say help them do their jobs. And so they've been a great partner. They've provided us a ton of information. They help us get better all the time because they're trying to get better on themselves.
That word you just said, Brad, consistency. I think that is so important on the retail side, whether you are a Hendrick or whether you're a small group or an individual store, to have that consistency in the retail process, in the reconditioning process. And like you just said, to see if there's any trends as to where the hangups are and to be able to have a big picture bird's eye view of that.
Right. Yep, absolutely. It's you've got to be, the way we do it, we control how the cars are inspected, what has to be approved, what doesn't have to be approved. These are things that are very consistent if you want to have a brand. And in the used car world, you need to have a brand. Your brand might be a $7,000 few dents and dings, or it might be, perfectly reconditioned vehicles, but you've got to have a brand to have a robust used car department, whatever that may be, and it's got to be consistent.
If you or I had written a book, there's no way you or I could have envisioned 2 or 3 years ago where we are today and what's happened. And like you just alluded to, the used car values and, what's happened with the market. Last question for today, Brad. What does the future of reconditioning look like from your vantage point there as Director of Product Management at ReconTRAC, working with so many dealers, so many brands with this amazing platform?
I wish I had a crystal ball. I would be very wealthy if I did. But Recon's kind of been the same for 100 years, right? Buy a car, get it reconditioned, get it on the front line as fast as you can, right? The one thing I can say with assurance that we need to be prepared for, that we've had a lot of it's EVs, right? I mean, I'm sure you don't know the number, but I looked this up. How much we spent on that we've spent back in 1960s to try to put a man to the moon? It was about $25 billion, which in today's world is $158 billion was the focus to put a man on the moon. So far, the auto manufacturers have invested $515 billion in plant and EV technology. So that's coming fast. I mean, 10 years ago when the first Prius came out, we all had the question, is it going to stick or are people going to use? There's no question anymore. It's coming fast. So, these are going to be risky acquisitions, very expensive, right? You need to make sure you're inspecting these cars right, because if you buy the wrong car, I mean, you could be sitting on a $20,000 bill on some of these repairs, right? So you've got to be able to have the inspections need to be different. You need to be able to somewhat control your costs on these things through the reconditioning process. I mean, we're going to have to, you go to use your standard inspection today and they're going to be looking for, oil and things like that these cars don't have. So that's one area that I can say that we need to be looking at in the future. And we are here at ReconTRAC.
Everybody, a lot of things happening in the near term and the long term future in our industry. Brad Schafer is the Director of Product Management at ReconTRAC. Brad, if our audience, our leaders, our dealers, our fixed ops service managers, used car reconditioning managers want to reach out to you or to ReconTRAC to get more information on what you could do for them specifically, Brad, how do they go about doing that?
Best way is probably our website, ReconTRAC.com.
Okay. And I saw that you're also on social media. We're connected now on LinkedIn as well. So I see that you're active as well on there. So, great honor to have you with us and to have you address the roundtable today, Brad.
Thank you.
Yeah. So everybody, on behalf of the fixed ops community, I'd like to thank Brad Schafer from ReconTRAC for being with us today. Brad Schafer here today at the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
Thanks, Ted.